Welcome to Shattered Trust Stories. The hum of the airplane's engines barely registered in Sarah's tired mind as she settled into her seat, her weary eyes fluttering closed. It had been a long, grueling day, and the exhaustion from juggling work and raising her young daughter alone had taken its toll. As a single mom, every moment felt like a struggle. Her daughter, Lily, was back home with her grandmother, and Sarah was on her way to a much-needed business trip. Little did she know that this flight would be more than just a quick escape from her routine. It would change her life forever. Beside her, the man in the window seat looked perfectly calm, almost regal, with his well-groomed dark hair, sharp jawline, and confident aura. He was the kind of man who could command a room without saying a word. Sarah tried not to notice him, feeling out of place in her simple blouse and jeans compared to his tailored suit. Still, she couldn't help but glance at him now and then, finding comfort in his quiet presence. Her own life was so full of chaos, her job, the bills, the stress of being a mom, and she envied the stillness he seemed to exude that as the flight took off, Sarah's eyelids grew heavier and heavier. Her mind drifted, lulled by the soft vibrations of the plane. Before she realized it, her head tilted to the side, and she leaned against the man's shoulder. He didn't seem to mind. His body was warm, and his shoulder was solid, offering an unexpected sense of peace she hadn't felt in ages. Time passed, and Sarah drifted into a deep sleep, the world around her fading into nothingness. But something was wrong. Suddenly, a chill ran down her spine. She stirred, slowly waking up. The first thing she noticed was that the arm she had been resting on wasn't as warm as it had been before. She blinked her eyes open and immediately felt a sense of unease creeping up on her. Something felt off. Her gaze shifted, and to her surprise, the man beside her was no longer there. In his place was a woman, beautiful, with long golden hair and a face that looked as though it had been carved by the gods themselves. Her eyes were wide with panic, staring at Sarah as if something horrible had just happened. Sarah's heart raced. Her breath caught in her throat as she tried to gather her bearings, but confusion overwhelmed her. She quickly glanced around the cabin, trying to make sense of what was happening. The flight attendants were walking by, but they weren't paying any attention to her. The other passengers appeared completely normal, engrossed in their own activities. What happened? Sarah whispered, her voice hoarse with fear. The woman beside her didn't respond immediately. Instead, she glanced at Sarah, then quickly turned her head away, as if unwilling to meet her gaze. Something wasn't right. Where's the man? The one who was sitting here? Sarah's voice trembled. The woman swallowed, her lips pressed tightly together. She looked down at her hands, as if unsure of how to explain what had happened. Are you okay? The woman finally spoke, her voice soft but laden with anxiety. I don't understand, Sarah stammered, her mind racing. What's going on? Who are you? Before the woman could answer, a deep, calm voice interrupted them both. It's all right. She's not in any danger, the voice said, smooth and commanding. Sarah whipped her head around, her pulse quickening as she found herself face to face with another man. This man was younger than the one she had fallen asleep on, but equally striking in his own way. His suit, though less formal, fit him perfectly. His dark eyes held an almost otherworldly intensity as he looked directly at Sarah, a slight smile on his lips. She immediately felt a sense of unease rise within her, but something in his demeanor also calmed her, a strange dichotomy that left her conflicted. You're the woman who was sleeping, the man continued. You must be disoriented. I don't understand, Sarah whispered, trying to gather her thoughts. What happened to the man? He was right here. Don't worry about him, the woman beside her finally said, her voice trembling with fear. He's gone, and you're not going to remember what happened. You're not supposed to. Sarah's head spun. Gone? What do you mean gone? Who are you people? Her voice grew louder now, drawing the attention of the flight attendants. The man who had spoken earlier raised a hand, signaling for them to stay away. His eyes softened as he turned his focus back to Sarah, You're not supposed to be here. Not yet, he said, his tone becoming more serious. I don't understand, Sarah exclaimed, her panic rising. The man sighed, looking at the woman next to her who was still avoiding eye contact. She's not ready, he murmured. The memories, they'll have to come back to her slowly. Sarah's mind was racing, her heart thumping in her chest. She had no idea what was happening. Her sleep had been invaded by strangers, and now she was caught in the middle of something she couldn't even comprehend. Who are you people? Why is this happening? Sarah demanded. Her voice had a sharp edge now, her frustration boiling over. The man's gaze flickered for just a moment, almost as if he was wrestling with something inside him. Then, without warning, he reached out and grabbed Sarah's wrist. His grip was firm, yet not painful. His dark eyes locked with hers. You were never meant to remember, he said in a low, almost hypnotic tone. But I'll give you a choice. Forget everything that happened and go back to your normal life, or come with me, and I'll show you the truth. The real reason you're here. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. His words sent a shockwave through her, but she felt an odd pull towards him. She couldn't understand it, but something about his words felt important. Dangerous, yes, but important. I don't know what you're talking about, Sarah whispered, her mind still clouded with confusion and fear. Do you want to know the truth? He asked again. Do you want to understand why you're here? And why the man you fell asleep on isn't what you think he was? For a moment, Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. This was insane. None of this made sense. And yet, something about his presence drew her in. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her. Yes, she breathed, her voice trembling. The man's smile returned, but it was different now. It was dark, knowing, as though he had been waiting for this moment. You're in for a shocking revelation, Sarah, he said, his voice low and full of mystery. The man you were sitting next to, he's not who he appeared to be. And neither am I. But if you want to understand what's really going on, you'll have to come with me. Sarah's mind reeled. This flight had just gone from an ordinary trip to a mind-bending whirlwind of uncertainty. Before she could respond, the woman beside her suddenly stood up. She looked at Sarah, her face pale, eyes wide with horror. Do not follow him, the woman said, her voice filled with desperation. You don't know who he really is. Please, for your safety, do not trust him. But it was too late. Sarah had already made her decision. The man's words had planted a seed of curiosity in her, and now she had no choice but to follow him. That as Sarah stood to follow the man down the aisle, she caught one last look at the woman who had warned her. The woman's expression was one of pure terror, her lips moving as if trying to say something, but no sound escaped. Then, just as quickly as she had appeared, the woman vanished, leaving Sarah with an overwhelming sense of dread. The man led her to a hidden door at the back of the plane, a door she never even realized was there. It opened with a soft hiss, revealing a dark corridor beyond. This way, he said, his voice now colder than before. Sarah hesitated, her heart racing. This was insane. She had no idea what was happening, but there was something undeniable in the air. Something dangerous. As she stepped into the corridor, the door slammed shut behind her, and the world she knew, the life she had fought so hard to build, began to unravel before her eyes. The plane was no longer just a plane, and she wasn't just a passenger. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. The truth was far darker and far more dangerous than she could ever have imagined.